thank you very much for coming and celebrating Dad's life with us and mourning his loss. William James Rosenblath was known by many names to different people. Rosie, Bill, Dad, Papa, Pa. Dad was born in August 12, 1941 in Kingston, Ontario, and was raised in Denby, Ontario. He suffered the loss of his mother at the young age of 11, and then left home at 13 to work on a farm in Kingston, Ontario. Dad joined the military just after turning 17. In 1958, his father signed the papers to allow entry under age of 18. Dad would end up spending 8 years in the military. He was assigned to the Canadian Guards. After basic training, he went to Germany for 3 years on his first deployment. Dad remarked on this once with wonder, saying, "There I was, 18 years old and walking down a street in Amsterdam." When you consider Dad's age, he basically grew up in those years in the military, making friendships with fellow guardsmen like Ron Cooney, Bill Cook, Roger Cormier, Roger St. Jean, and Ed Parody, to name a few. Friendships that would last a lifetime. Dad always spoke fondly of that time in his life, and there was always a gleam in his eye when he talked about it. In 1962, Dad returned to Canada and was stationed at Camp Picton with the 1st Battalion of the Canadian Guards. For anyone unfamiliar with the Canadian Guards, they were known as the Queen's Guards of Canada and fashioned after the Queen's Guards in England. They were recognized for their sharp dress uniforms of red and those tall bearskin hats you probably all know. Busbies, I think they're called. Every possible surface that could be shined in their uniform had to be perfect. Shoes, buttons, the brim of their hats, etc. And I'm sure you've heard the saying, join the Navy and see the world. My dad used to jokingly say, with the Guards, it was join the Guards and shine the world. Dad met my mom, Deanna Christine Nutley, Easter weekend 1964, through a fellow guardsman who was dating Mom's friend Diane Hudgen. Dad was scheduled for peacekeeping duty in Cyprus, so after a whirlwind romance, Mom and Dad were married on August 10th, 1964, at the First Baptist Church in Picton. That's right, 54 years ago. They honeymooned in the exotic honeymoon destination visited by so many young couples every year from all over the world, Ottawa. And then spent time visiting relatives in Denby, Ontario. Dad left for Cyprus 7 weeks after getting married and spent 6 months on peacekeeping duty with NATO, helping with the conflict between the Greeks and the Turks. Growing up, I heard many stories of Dad's time overseas in the military, too many to really get into here. But let's just say they were always filled with his special brand of mischief and fun that was a definite part of his character. He returned to Canada in the spring of 1965. Dad learned many valuable trades while in the military, including automotive mechanics and cooking and the operation of heavy equipment. After his return and discharge from the military, he went to work for Bob McNally, operating heavy equipment during the day and doing truck repairs at night. After this, he went to work for McFarland Construction for one season and was laid off after the season ended. The day he was laid off, he came home and received a phone call asking if he wanted to come and help build an addition on the CML Snyder School in Wellington. So he did. Mom and Dad bought their first and only property on Lake Street in 1967. And shortly after this, Dad started working for the Prince Edward County Roads Department as a heavy equipment operator for what turned out to be a 31-year career, for which he retired in 1998. Mom will proudly tell you that Dad was only out of work for 3 days during his lifetime. I was born in 1969, a couple of years after Dad started working for the county. And that's when their lives really got complicated. In 1973, Mom and Dad built their current home with their own hands over the course of 23 months, paycheck to paycheck, without a mortgage, and moved in 1975. My brother James came along in November 1978, just 9 short years after I was born. It took them some time to recover from me and be ready for their child. But I broke them in. Dad spent lots of time teaching us boys how to fish, play baseball, shovel snow, cut grass, shoot rifles, and do carpentry, and along with Mom, giving us a love for music, and all the while impressing upon us a strong work ethic and a sense of responsibility, both personal and social. Mom and Dad opened their home to many people over the years who needed a safe place to be and grow. Anytime any kids with troubled home lives needed a place to stay, my parents were there. I fondly refer to our home back then as the Rosenblath Hostel. Dad was an avid reader of Western novels and history books and also enjoyed historical documentaries. Over his lifetime, he read thousands of books. So many, in fact, that the Picton Library had to pull books in from other libraries in his preferred genres to keep up with him. They said he was the fourth highest reader of all their members and published that in their newsletter. In the past few years, Dad transitioned to using a tablet for reading and learned how to download books. Dad was a country music fan and enjoyed bluegrass as well. Mom and Dad often traveled to various bluegrass festivals around Ontario for many years and enjoyed those fun times with their many friends. And Dad also retained his farming roots and grew many crops of vegetables that helped feed the family over the years. When I was young, he kept chickens and rabbits and traded those with the local butcher as well. I was often surprised by my dad's knowledge of plants, in addition to food plants. He was quite knowledgeable about natural plant-based remedies and medicines as well. Dad maintained his love for travel and adventure, and when I was younger, we went on trips with our camper van around Lake Ontario and different places. And later in life, he and Mom went on trips to Venezuela, Cuba, Europe, and the US and parts of Eastern Canada. It's really hard to sum up a life in a short discourse like this, but all of these accomplishments and all of these experiences combined form what I consider a lived life full of family, love, and laughter. Life's had its ups and downs over the years, and our family, like all families, had lost our share of loved ones, including parents and grandparents, and more recently, my brother James in 2010, at the young age of 31. But through it all, Dad was a pillar of strength for us, and for me, a role model. I'm going to miss you, Dad. We all are, but we will always cherish and remember you, and cherish the time we had with you. Thanks for being a papa, a pa, a brother, a loving husband, and my dad. Rest in peace.